Today we're talking about Albert Einstein. You know his name. Everyone does. But let me tell you something important. Einstein was not born a genius. He was not perfect. In fact, when he was a child, many people thought he was slow, strange, or even a failure. And yet, this same boy grew up to change the world forever. Why does this matter? Because his life shows us that it does not matter where you start. What matters is how much curiosity, passion, and courage you have. So let's go back to the beginning of his story. Part 1. Early Life and Childhood. Albert Einstein was born on March 14th, 1879, in a small city called Ulm in Germany. His family was normal, not rich, not powerful. His father, Hermann, had a small business, and his mother, Pauline, loved music. From the outside, Albert's life looked simple, but inside his mind something special was already growing. When Albert was a baby and a little boy, people worried about him. He did not speak like other children. Some say he did not speak full sentences until he was 4 years old. Imagine that. The man who gave us the theory of relativity. The man who became the most famous scientist in the world started life as a late talker. Many people thought he would never achieve much. But Albert was not weak, he was thinking. As a child, he asked big questions. He wanted to understand the world. One day, his father gave him a small compass. Albert was amazed. No matter how he turned it, the needle always pointed north. "Why?" he asked. "What invisible force is moving it?" That little compass opened his mind to the mysteries of nature. It showed him that the universe has secrets waiting to be discovered. School, however, was difficult for him. His teachers wanted him to memorize facts, follow strict rules, and sit quietly. But Albert's brain did not work like that. He wanted to ask questions, to understand why. Because of this, many teachers thought he was a bad student. Some even told him he would never succeed. But Albert did not give up. He kept thinking, reading, and exploring ideas. At home he found support. His mother encouraged his love for music, and he learned to play the violin, something he enjoyed all his life. His uncle introduced him to mathematics and science, giving him problems to solve. Slowly, step by step, young Albert built the tools he needed for his future discoveries. So what do we learn from Einstein's childhood? We learn that being different is not a problem. Speaking late did not stop him. Struggling in school did not stop him. Moving homes because of money problems did not stop him. What made Einstein great was his curiosity and his determination to keep asking questions. And here's the truth you and I can learn from that. If you feel different, if people underestimate you, remember Einstein's story. He shows us that the people who change the world are often the ones who don't fit in. Part 2. Education and Struggles. Let's talk about the next step in Albert Einstein's life, his education and his struggles. And here's the truth. His school years were not easy. In fact, many people thought he would never succeed. But Einstein's story reminds us that sometimes the people who look like failures in school are the ones who end up teaching the world. As a child in Munich, Germany, Albert went to primary school. But he did not enjoy it. The classrooms were strict, the teachers were hard, and the system wanted students to memorize facts without asking questions. Albert was different. He wanted to think, not just repeat. He wanted to know why things worked, not just what they were. Because of this, his teachers thought he was a problem. Some even told him he would never make anything of himself. Imagine that! The boy who would later become the most famous scientist in the world was told he was lazy and stupid. But Albert knew something important. School grades do not measure your true potential. When he was about 15, his family had money problems, and they moved to Italy. Albert stayed behind in Germany to finish school, but he hated it. One day, he finally walked out of class and left school completely. He said he could not learn in such a system. Many people thought this was the end of his future, but Albert was not giving up. He was just finding his own way. Later, Albert applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, a top technical university. At first, he failed the entrance exam. Yes, Einstein, the genius, failed an exam. But don't miss the lesson here. Failure is not the end, it is just feedback. He worked harder, prepared again, and was finally accepted. At the Polytechnic, Albert studied mathematics and physics. But even there, he did not always fit in. He was not the perfect student. He often skipped classes and studied alone. He read books outside the curriculum, exploring ideas that excited him. Some professors did not like his independent style, but Albert's curiosity pushed him forward. During his student years, he also faced personal struggles. He was far from his family, he had financial problems, and he often felt isolated. But every challenge made him stronger. He kept going because he believed in the power of his questions. He was not the best student in school, and he failed exams. But he kept his curiosity alive. He refused to let other people's opinions define him. And that is what made all the difference. Because sometimes the very thing that makes you different is the thing that will make you great. Part 3. Early Career. Let's look at Albert Einstein's early career, the time after his studies when he began searching for work and a future. And let me tell you, his journey was not smooth. In fact, at first he could not even get a proper job as a teacher or scientist. But this part of his story proves something powerful. Success is not about where you start, it is about what you do with the chance you have. After finishing his studies in Zurich in 1900, Einstein wanted to be a professor. He dreamed of teaching physics and sharing his ideas. But life did not go as planned. He applied for many teaching positions, but nobody wanted to hire him. Some professors even gave him poor recommendations because they thought he was too independent. Imagine that one of the brightest minds in history could not find a simple job. So what did Einstein do? He did not give up. Instead, he accepted a job far away from the big universities. In 1902, he began working as a clerk in the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. His job was to read other people's inventions and decide if they were original. It was not exciting, and it was not what he dreamed of. But here's the key. Einstein used this time wisely. While working at the patent office, he continued to study and think deeply about physics. The job gave him steady income and also free evenings. At night and on weekends, he wrote down his ideas, solved problems, and imagined new ways to understand the universe. Many people would have been disappointed with a job like that, but Einstein turned it into his training ground. During this period, he was not alone. He also formed a small group of friends who loved to talk about science and philosophy. They called it the Olympia Academy. These friends encouraged him, debated with him, and helped him sharpen his ideas. It shows us that even a genius needs community and support. In his personal life, Einstein also faced challenges. He married Mileva Marek, a fellow student from Zurich, and they had children. Money was tight, and life was stressful. But through it all, Einstein kept his passion alive. And here is the most amazing part. While working at that small patent office away from the big universities, Einstein was preparing for his greatest achievements. In just a few years, he would publish papers that changed physics forever. Part 4. Annus Mirabilis, Miracle Year 1905. One of the most amazing times in Albert Einstein's life. His Annus Mirabilis, which means miracle year. And believe me, this part of his story is truly magical. It shows us that 1 year of focus, passion, and courage can change not only your life but the whole world. The year was 1905. Einstein was still working at the patent office in Bern, Switzerland. He was not a famous professor. He was not rich. He was just a young man in his 20s with a normal job. But inside his mind, big ideas were growing. And in that year, he wrote and published not 1, not 2, but 4 scientific papers that completely shook the world of physics. Let's talk about them in simple words. The first paper was about light. At the time, scientists thought light behaved only like a wave. But Einstein said light also behaves like little packets, called quanta. Today, we call them photons. This idea helped explain the photoelectric effect, how light can knock electrons out of metal. Years later, this paper earned him the Nobel Prize in Physics. The second paper was about tiny particles in liquids. Scientists could not fully explain how small particles move randomly in water, something called Brownian motion. Einstein showed with mathematics that this movement was proof that atoms and molecules were real. Imagine that he gave strong evidence for the very building blocks of matter. The third paper introduced the special theory of relativity. This was huge. He said the laws of physics are the same for everyone, no matter how fast they are moving, and that the speed of light never changes. From this idea came the shocking truth that time and space are not fixed. They can stretch and bend. And finally, his fourth paper gave the world the most famous equation of all time, E equals mc. This simple formula says that energy and mass are connected. They are 2 forms of the same thing. This idea would later open the door to nuclear energy and change technology forever. Can you believe it? One man in 1 year with no special position at a university wrote papers that completely transformed science. That is why 1905 is called Einstein's miracle year. But here's the lesson. Miracles don't happen by chance. They happen because someone keeps asking questions, keeps working, and never gives up. Einstein did not let his job at the patent office stop him. He used his free time, his curiosity, and his courage to share his ideas with the world. So what can we learn from Einstein's miracle year? We learn that greatness can come from anywhere. You don't need perfect conditions to create something amazing. You just need passion, persistence, and the courage to share your ideas. Part 5. Theory of Relativity. Albert Einstein's most famous gift to the world, the theory of relativity. This is the idea that made him a legend, the idea that changed how we see the universe forever. And here's the amazing part. He built it not in a huge laboratory, but in his mind. His imagination was his greatest tool. Let's make it simple. Before Einstein, most people believed time and space were fixed. Time ticked the same for everyone, and space was just the empty stage where everything happened. But Einstein said, no, time and space are not fixed. They can change depending on how fast you move. In 1905, he published his special theory of relativity. Imagine you are on a fast train and I am standing outside. For me, time and space look normal. But for you, moving quickly, time actually passes more slowly. Space also changes. Shocking, right? This means reality is not the same for everyone. It depends on how you move. Then, 10 years later, in 1915, Einstein introduced the general theory of relativity. This was even bigger. He said gravity is not just a force pulling things down. Instead, gravity is the bending of space and time itself. Picture space as a big trampoline. If you put a heavy ball in the middle, the trampoline bends. A smaller ball rolling nearby will curve toward it. That's how Einstein explained planets moving around the sun, because the sun bends space and time around it. At first, many scientists thought his ideas were too strange. But then came the proof. In 1919, during a solar eclipse, scientists observed that light from stars bent as it passed near the sun, exactly as Einstein had predicted. Overnight, he became a superstar. His name was in newspapers all over the world. He was no longer just Albert Einstein. He was the Albert Einstein, the man who redefined the universe. Now, here's the lesson for us. Einstein's relativity teaches us something powerful. Reality is not always what it seems. Sometimes the world works in ways we cannot see at first. Sometimes the truth looks strange, even impossible. But if we dare to imagine, if we dare to think differently, we can discover something extraordinary. Einstein once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Why? Because knowledge is what we already know. But imagination is what opens the door to new worlds. Without imagination, relativity would never have been born. Einstein's relativity is more than science. It's a reminder that with imagination and courage, we can bend reality itself. Part 6. Nobel Prize and Other Achievements. Let's talk about Albert Einstein's biggest award, the Nobel Prize, and some of his other great achievements. And here's the exciting part. Einstein did not win the Nobel Prize for relativity, the theory that made him famous. No, he won it for something different. This shows us that success can come from many directions, and sometimes recognition arrives in ways we do not expect. In 1921, Einstein received the Nobel Prize in Physics. The award was not for relativity, but for his work on the photoelectric effect. Let's explain it simply. Imagine shining light on a piece of metal. Small particles, called electrons, jump out. Scientists knew this happened, but did not understand why. Einstein said light is made of tiny packets of energy, called photons. These photons hit the metal and push the electrons out. This was a huge idea. It was the beginning of quantum theory, which later gave us amazing technology, like solar panels, lasers, and even the screens on our phones. So Einstein's work is not just about stars and space, it also powers the tools we use every day. But the Nobel Prize was only one part of his achievements. Einstein wrote over 300 scientific papers and 150 non-scientific works in his lifetime. His mind never stopped searching for answers. He helped open doors to modern physics, and his ideas inspired generations of scientists. He also became a public figure. People all over the world wanted to hear him speak. Newspapers printed his picture, and his wild hair became almost as famous as his theories. But Einstein never cared much for fame. He said he was just a man following his curiosity. Even more inspiring, Einstein used his fame to stand for important causes. He spoke about peace, education, and human rights. He knew that science was powerful, but he also believed that science must serve humanity. Here's something to think about. Einstein's Nobel Prize reminds us that recognition does not always come for the thing people expect. Many thought he should win for relativity, but the Nobel Committee chose his work on light. Still, it didn't matter. His true reward was not the medal. It was the chance to share his ideas with the world. So what do we learn from Einstein's achievements? We learn that success has many faces. Sometimes your most famous work is not the one that gets the award. Sometimes the world sees your value in a different way. But if you keep giving your best, if you keep sharing your passion, recognition will come in time. Einstein's Nobel Prize teaches us this. Don't chase the prize, chase the passion. The medal may shine for a moment, but the ideas, the discoveries, and the inspiration you give to others will shine forever. Part 7. World War II and the Atomic Age. Today we are talking about one of the most difficult times in Albert Einstein's life, World War II and the Atomic Age. This part of his story is not only about science, it is about responsibility, choices, and the heavy weight of knowledge. And here's the lesson. Having great power means having great responsibility. In the 1930s, the world was changing fast. A dangerous leader, Adolf Hitler, rose to power in Germany. Einstein, who was Jewish, could no longer live safely there. He left his homeland and moved to the United States. He became a professor at Princeton University, where he continued his research. But war was coming. In 1939, Einstein heard news that German scientists were working on a terrible weapon, the atomic bomb. He was deeply worried. Together with other scientists, he signed a letter to U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The letter warned that Nazi Germany might create a bomb of unimaginable power. This letter helped push the United States to start the Manhattan Project, which later produced the first atomic bomb. But here is the truth. Einstein himself did not work on the bomb. He did not want to. He believed in peace, not in building weapons. Still, he always felt heavy in his heart because his warning letter had played a part in starting the project. In 1945, when the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Einstein was shocked and sad. Thousands of lives were lost. Even though he had not built the weapon, he felt connected to it. He later said, "If I had known, I would not have signed that letter." These words show his deep regret. After the war, Einstein used his fame to speak against nuclear weapons. He joined movements for peace and disarmament. He wanted the world to learn that science should be used to help people, not to destroy them. He once said, "Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding." This period of Einstein's life teaches us a big lesson. Knowledge is powerful, but how we use it matters even more. Einstein's genius gave the world amazing discoveries, but he also understood the dangers of science without wisdom. We learn that every choice we make has consequences. We may not always control how our actions are used, but we can stand up for what we believe in. Einstein stood for peace, even when the world around him was full of war. Einstein in the atomic age reminds us, intelligence alone is not enough. True greatness comes when we use our knowledge with responsibility, compassion, and courage. Part 8. Later Years in Princeton. Here's what makes this part special. Even when he was older, even when the world already called him a genius, Einstein never stopped learning, questioning, and dreaming. His story shows us that curiosity has no age limit. Einstein moved to Princeton in 1933 after leaving Germany because of Hitler and the Nazis. He accepted a position at the Institute for Advanced Study, a place where the world's greatest thinkers could focus on pure research. There were no classes to teach, no exams to grade, just space and freedom to think. For Einstein, this was perfect. At Princeton, he worked on what he called the unified field theory. His dream was to connect all the forces of nature, gravity, electricity, magnetism, into one beautiful equation. He wanted to show that the universe had a deep unity. This was his biggest goal in science during his later years. But here's the truth. Einstein never fully solved this problem. For some, this might sound like failure. But Einstein didn't see it that way. He believed that the search for truth was just as important as the answer. His courage to keep going, even without success, is a powerful lesson for us all. Outside of science, Einstein became even more famous as a public figure. People all over the world wanted his opinion, not only about physics, but also about politics, education, and peace. He used his voice to speak against racism, against violence, and against nuclear weapons. He believed scientists should serve humanity, not harm it. Even though he was famous, Einstein lived a simple life in Princeton. He wore old sweaters, sandals without socks, and his wild white hair became his trademark. He did not care about looking fancy. He cared about truth, kindness, and curiosity. Students would sometimes see him walking around town, lost in thought, his violin under his arm. Einstein also received many invitations and honors, but he stayed humble. In 1952, the government of Israel even offered him the presidency of the country. Can you imagine a scientist being asked to lead a nation? But Einstein refused. He said he was not a politician. He wanted to remain a teacher and thinker. Einstein lived in Princeton until his death in 1955. Even in his final days, he kept writing equations, trying to unlock the secrets of the universe. He never stopped searching. His Princeton years remind us, never stop learning, never stop questioning, and never stop using your voice for good. Curiosity is not just for the young, it is the fuel for a full and meaningful life. Part 9. Personal life and character. Einstein was not perfect. He had struggles, he made mistakes, and he was sometimes difficult. But he also had a warm heart, a playful spirit, and a unique way of living. His story reminds us that greatness is not about being flawless, it's about being real. Einstein married twice. His first wife was Mileva Maric, a fellow student from Zurich. They had children together, but their marriage was full of challenges. Einstein was deeply focused on his work, and this sometimes hurt his family life. Eventually, they divorced. Later, he married his cousin Elsa Einstein, who supported him and helped him manage his busy public life. As a father, Einstein had complicated relationships with his children. He loved them, but he was often far away, lost in his world of science and travel. This part of his life shows us that even great people struggle to balance work and family. But Einstein's character was more than his private struggles. He had a playful side. He loved to joke, laugh, and even make funny faces for the camera. One of his most famous photos is of him sticking out his tongue. That picture became a symbol of his spirit, serious in science, but light-hearted in life. He also loved music. His mother had taught him violin as a child, and he never stopped playing. Music was his escape, his way to relax and think. He often said that if he had not been a physicist, he would have been a musician. For Einstein, music and science were connected. Both were about beauty, harmony, and imagination. Einstein also lived simply. He did not care much about clothes or appearances. He often wore old sweaters and sandals, even when meeting important people. He believed ideas were more important than looks. What made Einstein truly special was his kindness and humility. Even though he was famous, he stayed down to earth. He answered letters from children, encouraged young scientists, and spoke out for justice. He hated racism and once called segregation in America a disease of white people. He also supported peace movements and human rights around the world. Part 10. Legacy and Influence. Let's talk about the legacy of Albert Einstein, the mark he left on the world even after his death. And let me tell you this, Einstein's story did not end when he passed away in 1955. His ideas, his spirit, and his influence are still alive today. That is the true power of a great life. It continues to inspire long after the person is gone. Einstein changed science forever. His theory of relativity is one of the greatest ideas in human history. It completely transformed how we see space, time, and the universe. Without Einstein's work, we would not have technologies like GPS, advanced communication, or even some parts of modern medicine. Every time you use a phone that shows your location, you're using Einstein's science. But Einstein's legacy is bigger than physics. He became a symbol of intelligence and imagination. His very name Einstein is now used to mean someone very smart, but he himself did not believe he was some kind of superhuman. He always said curiosity and persistence were more important than genius. That message continues to inspire students, teachers, and dreamers all over the world. Einstein also left a legacy of courage and conscience. He was not afraid to speak up. He warned the world about nuclear weapons, fought against racism, and supported peace and equality. He believed science should serve humanity, not destroy it. This moral voice makes his legacy more than just about physics. It is about how to live with responsibility. Einstein's image is everywhere. His face appears on posters, T-shirts, and books. His famous quotes are shared daily. Imagination is more important than knowledge, or life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. These words are not only wise, they are easy to remember, and they motivate people to keep going. Even in culture, Einstein is alive. Movies, songs, and cartoons often mention him. He is the scientist that everyone recognizes. This shows how one person's life can go beyond their field and enter the hearts of millions. But maybe Einstein's greatest legacy is this: he showed the world that dreamers can change reality. He started as a curious boy in Germany, who loved puzzles and hated boring rules. He ended up as one of the most important thinkers in history. If he could do it, why not you? Your curiosity can change the world. Your voice can fight for justice. And your life, no matter where it begins, can leave a legacy that inspires others for generations. Einstein's life tells us, be curious, be brave, be kind. That is how you make your mark. That is how you live a life worth remembering. And that brings us to the end of Albert Einstein's story. From a curious boy who asked questions no one else did, to a man who changed the way we see the universe, Einstein showed us the power of curiosity, courage, and imagination. His life is a reminder for you and me. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't need all the answers. What you need is the courage to ask, to learn, and to keep moving forward. So, let Einstein's story push you to dream bigger, to think differently, and to never give up on your curiosity. Because who knows? Maybe the next world-changing idea will come from you. 7 things you can learn from Einstein's story. Stay curious. Always ask questions, even if others don't understand. Don't give up. Struggles in school or work don't mean you cannot succeed. Think differently. Great ideas often come from a fresh point of view. Work hard. Einstein read, studied, and tested his ideas for years. Stay humble. Even though he was famous, Einstein lived simply. Use your voice. He spoke out against racism, war, and injustice. Leave a legacy. Your ideas and actions can inspire future generations. 7 vocabulary words to learn. Curiosity, the strong desire to learn or know something. Relativity, Einstein's famous theory about space, time, and motion. Patent, a legal right that protects a new invention. Genius, a very intelligent or creative person. Imagination, the ability to create ideas in your mind. Legacy, what you leave behind that continues after your life. Equality, the state where everyone has the same rights and opportunities. Once again, remember Einstein stayed curious, brave, and true to his ideas. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay curious, stay brave, and keep learning. The future is waiting for your ideas. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with your friends so more people can learn and be inspired just like you.